We start today with an original, exclusive, and explosive story. Planned Parenthood. At this point, almost everybody in the nation knows what they do. The nation's most notorious abortion provider has made a point that they're much more than simply a facility to accommodate abortions. They've made the point that they are about reproductive health, that they help in women's health. Well, it's true. They do much, much more than abortions. The mission statement for Planned Parenthood reads, help people live full, healthy lives, no matter income, insurance, gender identity, sexual orientation, race, or immigration status. Provide inclusive and comprehensive sexual and reproductive health care services. Advocate for public policies that protect and expand reproductive rights. And provide medically accurate information while promoting research and technology that enhances reproductive health care. So that's the mission. But as we suggested, when you dig, we find out they do a lot more than abortion. On the Planned Parenthood website, it reads they proudly provide gender-affirming care, including estrogen hormone therapy, testosterone hormone therapy, puberty blockers, surgery referrals, and transition support. This part of what they do is not well known, but it got the attention of pro-life organization Live Action. Undercover reporters with Live Action got on the phone and called different Planned Parenthood offices across the nation. And what they found regarding minors is alarming.
Hi, my name's Sophia. I'm just trying to schedule some gender-affirming care. I really just want to be able to get some testosterone to start my journey.
So we just have to start by booking your initial appointment so you can come in to see one of our providers. Are you over 18?
No, I'm 16.
You're good to be seen here then, 16 and older.
I know my mom has to come in with me. And does she have to be in there the whole time? Like, how does that work? Because I don't know if I'm comfortable with that.
At some point in the appointment, maybe she doesn't have to be in the examining room with you.
Right, some offices accepting calls from minors, calling on their own to inquire about a sex change, and yet there's more.
You said I could do it virtually?
Yeah, you could do it virtually.
So what would that look like? So I just talk to a doctor and then they'd be able to prescribe me?
Yeah.
I don't need any, therapy or anything first? You don't need any record of that?
Not that I know of.
I don't need any sort of, records of having gone to therapy or anything like that, right?
Yeah, so unless you have TRICARE insurance, it would not be required.
Right, some of these offices saying people, in fact, don't need evaluation for getting access to hormone therapy drugs. And yet, there's still more.
Decided last week, and so I kind of want to get in as soon as possible. Do you have any appointments available soon?
Yeah, it depends on the location, too, but we usually do have availability for the next week of whenever you call.
You think that if I came in, went over everything with the doctor, and they could send the prescription that day?
Yes, I think they should be able to. The provider is going to send the prescription to your pharmacy the same day of your appointment.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
As you heard there, some offices wasting no time between an initial call and access to hormone drugs that day. Our show reached out to Planned Parenthood branches. In these calls, we did not hear back from any of those offices of Planned Parenthood. Live Action is blowing the lid off of all of this. And joining me now is the president of Live Action, Lila Rose. Lila, thank you for being with us here today and reporting this exclusively here on the Will Cain Show. I know you're making this available all over on your websites. You're putting out releases. And as I understand it, you're also buying billboards in Times Square.
That's right. Well, this is a breaking story, and we're proud to get to break it here with you, but it's absolutely insane. Planned Parenthood, which has bragged about being one of the leading providers of cross-sex hormones, is actually providing cross-sex hormones, which are life-altering, to 16-year-olds without any therapy, any psychiatric evaluation, any counseling appointment, and they're doing same-day appointments to send them right away to the prescription store to get their drugs, and this can be, of course, life-altering, these trans hormones, life-altering for minors. And this is what they're doing across the country. It's absolutely outrageous.
There's a couple of different issues that were raised during your undercover calls, Lila. First is the involvement of a parent. I looked up, I think some of your calls were in the state of New York, so we researched what is the law in the state of New York. It does require for a 16-year-old to have parental consent. Now, the question in your calls is what was being communicated there when the 16-year-old says, but I don't want my mom in the room. So were they willing to go forward with these prescriptions for, as you mentioned, life-altering drugs without parental consent?
So what Planned Parenthood did multiple times was waffle on this very issue, because it is right. In many states, it's required by the law to have parental consent. These are life-altering cross-sex hormones. And as you heard on one of the calls that you just aired, Will, they said, well, she needs to be in the room for some of it, but she can maybe leave the room for part of it. Again, indicating that maybe there's a sleight of hand that we can do here. And again, no therapy required here. We're going to get you this prescription. And I think the question you have to ask is, well, why is Planned Parenthood doing this? They're this abortion chain. Why are they now bragging about being a leader of cross-sex hormones being given to people of all ages, including minors? And the reality is, you don't make money on things like therapy, right? You're going to make money on being that, billing maybe Medicaid or billing, an insurance company for cross-sex hormones. That's a moneymaker for you, and they want to do that as quickly as possible. And when they start a 16-year-old on cross-sex hormones, Planned Parenthood has made a potentially lifelong patient, because these are ultimately irreversible in terms of leading to sterilization, in terms of stunting sexual development, having all kinds of consequences, health consequences for kids. So this is now a new moneymaker, Will, for Planned Parenthood. It's not just abortion making money for them. It's now trans hormones that they're giving to young people as young as 16 years old, and this is their new cash cow.
As you mentioned, Lila, Planned Parenthood's brand, its notoriety, is based around abortion. But they've long used as a defense, we do much more than abortion. We do women's reproductive health. And now it's a surprise to me, and perhaps it shouldn't have been, because it's pretty well displayed on their websites that they've invested in this entire gender-affirming care, sex change industry. You called how many states, and how many of them did you find out were really leaning into this new wing of their business?
We did over a dozen calls, Will, and all of them are leaning into this new business. And this is something that Planned Parenthood is, as you said, they're saying on their own website that this is a new service that they're providing. This is a huge moneymaker for them. Even HHS has said that Planned Parenthood is now the leading provider of cross-sex hormones. Now, little do most people know that this is for also 16-year-olds. These are very vulnerable young people that have not been given proper therapy, psychiatric evaluations, they've not been given proper counseling. They're literally calling up Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is saying, we will see you the same day. You have a 30-minute appointment, and you are out the door with these cross-sex hormones prescribed to you. And keep in mind, some of our callers, Will, said, I've been thinking I might be transgender in just the last week. Right? We had callers saying, I think I might be the other sex in just the last week. Planned Parenthood was willing to give them cross-sex hormones, puberty blockers ultimately, that will potentially sterilize them for life, lead to a lifetime of regret within the same day. It is absolutely atrocious. And keep in mind, this is a tax-funded corporation. Planned Parenthood gets $700 million a year in the last reported year from taxpayers. So we are funding this. We're not just funding a Planned Parenthood that's doing 1,000 abortions a day. We're funding a Planned Parenthood that is giving out cross-sex hormones to underage people within the same day and pushing them towards the transgender agenda.
And I mentioned earlier, Lila, I think there's two big issues. Besides the revelation that Planned Parenthood is completely leaning into this gender-affirming care industry is, and I use that word because it's a euphemism that everyone has become familiar with, it's not accurate. It's not an accurate description of what's actually happening. You're not affirming someone's gender. You're changing someone's gender with life-altering drugs, as you've mentioned several times, Lila. But I noticed two things cropped up in your undercover calls. One, yes, a 16-year-old, and does that person have parental consent to engage in these drugs? But the second is what you talked about, the speed. And you've mentioned that a couple of times, and that is really shocking, that you could get the drugs that day, virtually. You could book a virtual appointment with the doctor over a laptop and get the drugs that day. And I looked it up. That's not necessarily against the law, say, in the state of New York, but I would have to think that defies even modern medical convention, that you should be thoroughly evaluated before being put on life-altering drugs.
I mean, you're absolutely right. And again, this is shocking information that most people just they're not even aware of. Because when you are a young person, maybe struggling with your identity, right? You might be struggling, maybe wondering, am I the other sex? And there is a social contagion element to this, Will, as many people are becoming aware of. It's becoming kind of in vogue to identify as transgender. And so you have a vulnerable, confused young person calling up Planned Parenthood saying, I think in the last week I'm starting to have gender dysphoria, I have these feelings. They have not been seen by a mental health professional. They've not had any kind of actual evaluation. And Planned Parenthood is saying, we're going to do a remote call with you and prescribe a cross-sex hormone. These are not easy drugs, right? These drugs can stunt sexual development. They can permanently sterilize young people who are using them during puberty or within the age realm of puberty. They can lead to bone loss density. They can lead to many problems, psychiatric problems that young people can have being on cross-sex hormones. None of that, of course, is part of the conversation. Instead, it's let's do this as quickly as possible. And you got to ask why. Why would they do this? It is a cash cow. Quite frankly, it is a cash cow. And the more time they have with the patient, the more they actually spend on evaluating the patient, the more money they lose. And so their objective here at Planned Parenthood is not just to do abortions. They do 1,000 abortions a day in this country, but it's now to prescribe as many cross-sex hormones as they can, puberty blockers as they can, to patients as young as 16 and get them out the door with the prescription, because that is more money in the bank for them.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, we've reached out to Planned Parenthood. They're welcome to come on and explain these policies and explain this new business where they are completely leaning in. In the meantime, should we not hear back from Planned Parenthood, we thank you, Lila Rose, for reporting this exclusively on the Will Cain Show. We'll be watching as this crops up everywhere, including Times Square. Great job with that undercover report.